I was just trying to eat in peace when the waitress froze mid-step, stared at me in terror, and whispered, "Hide, quick, don't say a word, just watch." 5 minutes later, my entire life changed forever. Before we begin, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment where you're watching from, because this story proves one thing: sometimes the truth doesn't need revenge, it exposes itself. I hadn't planned to stop at that diner. It was one of those places you only notice when you're too tired to care. Flickering neon sign, cracked windows taped at the corners, the smell of burnt coffee clinging to the air like regret. My car had started overheating again, and I told myself I'd sit for 10 minutes, let the engine cool, drink something warm, then get back on the road. That was all. No drama, no memories, no trouble. I slid into the last booth near the wall, my back instinctively pressing against the cracked vinyl seat. Old habit. You don't survive the kind of life I lived without learning how to sit where you can see exits, reflections, and shadows all at once. The waitress came over a moment later. She was young, early 20s maybe, hair pulled into a loose ponytail, dark circles under her eyes like sleep had been optional for years. Her name tag said Lena. "What can I get you?" she asked politely, already holding her pen like she was rushing through the day. "Just coffee," I said. "Black?" She nodded and turned to leave. That should have been it. But halfway through her step, she stopped. Her body stiffened. Not subtly, not like surprise, like fear. Slowly, she turned back toward me, eyes wide, pupils blown out like she'd seen a ghost. Her gaze flicked over my shoulder, then to the front of the diner, then back to me again. I frowned. "Is everything okay?" She leaned closer, pretending to wipe the table beside me. Her voice dropped so low I almost didn't hear it. "Don't look behind you," she whispered. "Please." My heart gave one heavy thump. "I hide," she said urgently. "Now, slide into the storage hallway behind that door. Lock it if you can. And whatever happens, just watch." I stared at her. "What are you talking about?" Her hands were shaking. "They think you're gone," she whispered. "If they see you, everything goes wrong." Before I could ask another question, she straightened up, forced a smile onto her face, and walked away like nothing had happened. I sat there, frozen. "Think you're gone. They, plural. My instincts screamed. I slid out of the booth casually, pretending to stretch, then pushed open the narrow door behind the counter that read, "Employees Only." The hallway was tight, dimly lit, smelling of bleach and old cardboard. At the end was a small supply room with a cracked door and a rusted lock. I stepped inside and pulled it closed, just as voices entered the diner. Through a thin crack in the door, I could see everything. And 5 minutes later, I understood why Lena had looked at me like she'd seen a dead man. 3 people walked in. A man first, tall, confident, expensive coat. His smile was practiced, calculated. Behind him, a woman clinging to his arm like ownership heels too high for a diner floor. Lipstick perfect, eyes sharp with entitlement, and trailing them both, my sister. I hadn't seen her in 7 years. She laughed loudly, tossing her hair like she owned the place. "Ugh, I hate places like this," she said, "but it's close, and I'm starving." My sister, the same one who stood in a courtroom and testified that I had stolen money, abandoned the family, and disappeared out of shame, the same one who signed documents declaring me legally dead after I vanished. My fingers curled into fists. Lena approached them, face carefully neutral. "What can I get you?" she asked. The man didn't even look at the menu. "Coffee, and keep it coming." He glanced around casually, lazily, and my breath caught when his eyes passed directly over the door I was hiding behind. "Place is empty," he muttered. "Good." Lena nodded and walked away. My sister slid into the booth I'd been sitting in minutes earlier. That's when she said the words that stopped my breathing. "She never come back," she said, sipping water. "Even if she's alive, she's nothing now." The woman beside her smirked. "You were smart, taking everything while you could." The man leaned forward, lowering his voice. "And the diner?" he asked. Lena froze behind the counter. My sister smiled. "Oh, this place," she said. "Just one more thing, we're cleaning up." That's when Lena's eyes flicked, just for a second, toward the hallway, toward me, and I realized something terrifying. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't random. They weren't just talking about the past. They were planning something right now, and I was supposed to be dead. I stayed completely still, not because I was afraid to move, but because every instinct I had was screaming that if I made a single sound, the fragile illusion keeping me alive would shatter, that I was officially dead, declared missing, declared irresponsible, declared a thief. And according to the people sitting 5 meters away from me, I was also irrelevant. The storage room smelled like dust and cleaning chemicals. A single bare bulb flickered overhead, humming softly like it might betray me if I breathed too loud. I pressed my eye to the narrow crack in the door, heart pounding so hard it felt like it might punch through my ribs. My sister leaned back in the booth, crossing her arms with lazy confidence. I still don't understand why we're meeting here, she complained. This place is a dump. The man across from her smiled calmly. Because nobody listens in places like this. I almost laughed. Nobody, except the woman you buried alive with lies. The woman at his side, his wife, I assumed, glanced around with distaste. And you're sure she's gone? Completely gone. My sister rolled her eyes. Please, if she were alive, she would have shown up years ago. She couldn't survive without us. That sentence cut deeper than I expected. She said it so confidently, like she'd rehearsed it until she believed it herself. The man took a slow sip of his coffee. Still, loose ends make me nervous. There are no loose ends, my sister snapped. The documents are clean. The accounts are transferred. The property is under our names. Even the insurance company signed off. Insurance. My pulse spiked. She was declared missing, my sister continued. After 5 years, the court allowed us to move forward. Legally dead. Case closed. Legally dead. I felt a strange calm settle over me, because now, I knew. They hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. They had erased me. Lena returned with the coffee pot, her hands shaking just enough that my sister noticed. Careful, my sister said sharply. You spill that, and it's coming out of your paycheck. Lena murmured an apology, eyes downcast, but as she poured, she spoke quietly. You said, cleaning up, she said. What did you mean by that? The man looked up sharply. Curious, aren't you? He said, voice smooth but dangerous. Lena swallowed. Just making conversation. My sister laughed. Relax. She's nobody. Nobody. Lena nodded and stepped away, but as she turned, she caught my eye through the crack. Her expression hardened. She knew exactly who I was now, and she was terrified. The woman at the table leaned forward. If we're doing this, I want it done fast. The owner's been asking questions. My sister shrugged. He'll stop asking once the paperwork goes through. And if it doesn't, the woman pressed. The man set his cup down carefully. Then, the diner closes. Fires happen. Floods happen. People disappear. The words settled like poison in the air. Lena froze near the counter. I felt something inside me snap. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about her. Watched as Lena pretended to wipe down tables, moving closer to the hallway, closer to the door where I was hiding. When she passed, she dropped something, a napkin. It fluttered near the door. Written on it, in shaky ink, were 3 words. They killed him. My breath caught. Killed who? I waited until she moved away, then quietly reached down and picked it up. They killed him. My mind raced. The diner owner. Someone else. Someone who had refused to sell. The conversation at the booth continued. The guy was stubborn, my sister said, thought he could fight us. The man nodded. People always think that. And now, the woman asked. Now the property transfers, my sister said casually, just like everything else. Everything else. My chest tightened. This was bigger than my disappearance, bigger than inheritance, bigger than family betrayal. This was a pattern. Steal, silence, erase. I thought back to the day I vanished, the night I was framed, bank statements that didn't make sense, the signature, that wasn't mine, the accident that nearly killed me on a road no one knew I was driving. I hadn't run away. I had been pushed. The man glanced at his watch. We should go. I don't like lingering. My sister stood, grabbing her purse. Relax. Nobody here matters. She laughed. That's when Lena did something brave, something reckless. She stepped forward and spoke clearly. You should leave, she said. Now. My sister blinked. Excuse me. I said leave, Lena repeated, voice shaking but loud. You're making the other customers uncomfortable. The man narrowed his eyes. Are you trying to tell us how to behave? Lena lifted her chin. I'm telling you this isn't a place for threats. The diner fell silent. My sister scoffed. You're a waitress. Know your place. I saw Lena's hands curl into fists. Actually, she said quietly, this place belongs to someone who doesn't deserve what you're doing. The woman stood abruptly. That's enough. The man reached into his coat. My heart slammed. Gun, knife. I pushed against the door, ready to burst out if I had to. But instead, he pulled out cash, slapped it on the table, and smiled thinly. Let's go, he said. This place smells like trouble. They turned toward the door. As they passed the hallway, my sister paused. She glanced at the door. For half a second, her eyes lingered. My heart stopped. Then she laughed softly to herself and walked out. The bell over the door jingled. The diner went quiet. Lena collapsed against the counter. Gasping, I stepped out of the storage room. The door creaked. She spun around, eyes wide, then filled with tears. You're alive, she whispered. I nodded. Thanks to you. She wiped her face quickly. They're dangerous. You shouldn't be here. I was never supposed to be here, I said softly. I was supposed to be gone. She swallowed. They did this to you, didn't they? Yes, and to others, she said. The owner. He disappeared 2 weeks ago. Police said he ran off, but he wouldn't. He loved this place. My jaw tightened. They killed him, I said. She nodded. Silence fell between us. Then I said the words that would change everything. They think I'm dead, I said, which means they're not watching me. Lena looked at me, realization dawning. What are you going to do? I met her gaze. I'm going to let them keep believing it. Because ghosts can't be threatened. Ghosts can't be silenced. And ghosts have nothing left to lose. For a long moment after I spoke, neither of us moved. The diner felt different now. Smaller, heavier, like the walls had leaned in to listen. The coffee machine hissed softly, breaking the silence in uneven bursts, like it was nervous too. They think you're dead, Lena repeated slowly, as if tasting the words. That's not just dangerous, that's powerful. I nodded. Only if I stay invisible. She looked toward the front windows, watching the empty parking lot like she expected my sister's car to roll back in any second. You shouldn't stay here. If they come back, they won't, I said. Not tonight. They got what they came for. Lena frowned. What's that? Confirmation, I replied, that no one's watching, that no one remembers, that this place is already halfway erased. Her jaw tightened. They're wrong, I know, I said, but they don't. I stepped fully into the diner now, feeling the strange weight of existing again, of being seen by another human who knew the truth. My reflection in the cracked mirror behind the counter startled me. I looked older, sharper, like someone who had learned much too fast. Lena poured herself a glass of water with shaking hands. You need to leave town. No, I said gently. I need to stay close. She laughed bitterly. Close to what? Them. Close to their mistakes. She studied my face, searching for something. You're serious. They framed me, I said. They stole my life. And now they're killing people who get in the way. If I disappear again, they win. And if they find out you're alive, she asked. I didn't answer right away, because the truth was simple. If they find out, I said finally, I won't be alive much longer. The words hung between us. Lena swallowed. Then why risk it? Because I remembered my sister's smile. Because I remembered standing alone in a courtroom while she cried fake tears and told lies that destroyed me. Because I remembered waking up in a wrecked car, blood in my eyes, my phone smashed, my wallet gone, and realizing someone had planned it. Because I'm already dead, I said. They just haven't buried the body yet. Lena exhaled slowly. Okay, that surprised me. Okay, I repeated. She nodded once. I'll help you. You don't have to. I know, she said, but I want to. She gestured around the diner. This place is all I have. The owner was like family to me. And those people, her voice shook. They talk about destroying lives like it's paperwork. I felt a flicker of something unfamiliar. Hope, what do you know? I asked. She leaned on the counter. Enough to get us both killed if we're not careful. That was promising. She explained quickly. The diner's owner, Mr. Halvorsen, had refused to sell the property to a development company, a shell corporation with a clean name and dirty hands. 2 weeks later, his truck was found abandoned near the river. Wallet inside, phone missing, no body. Police ruled it voluntary disappearance. Lena said bitterly, same story they used for you, right? I nodded. Same script. She continued. Since then, men in suits have been coming around, asking questions, taking pictures, measuring the building. They think it's already theirs. My sister's voice echoed in my head. Just one more thing, we're cleaning up. Do you have cameras? I asked. Lena's eyes flicked upward. The owner installed them himself. Old system, but it works. Do they record sound? She hesitated. No, Just video. That's enough, I said. I followed her into the back office, a cramped room with peeling wallpaper and a desk cluttered with receipts, ledgers, and framed photos of Mr. Halvorsen, smiling with customers. Lena powered on the monitor. The footage from earlier played back. I watched my sister again, laughing in my booth, watched the man slide cash across the table, watched Lena stand up to them, even while terrified. And then I saw something else, the man's hand, as he stood to leave. He'd dropped something. It slid beneath the table. Lena zoomed in, a black leather folder. My breath caught. Did you pick that up? I asked. She nodded and reached into a drawer, pulling it out. Inside were documents. Property transfer forms. Corporate seals. And one familiar signature, mine. Forged perfectly. I stared at it, a cold calm washing over me. This is how they did it, I whispered. Lena flipped another page. There's more. A map. Red circles, marking locations. My house, the diner, 2 other properties. And written in the margin, in neat handwriting, status, clear, pending, CLOSED, my name, was beside one word. Closed. My sister's voice echoed again. Everything else. They didn't just steal from you, Lena said quietly. They built an entire system around it. Yes, I said, and systems leave trails. I pulled out my phone, old, unregistered, one I'd learned to keep hidden years ago. We need copies of everything, I said, digital and physical. And then what? She asked. Then, I said, we give them exactly what they don't expect. She raised an eyebrow. Which is, I smiled for the first time in years, a dead woman who remembers everything. Suddenly, headlights flashed through the diner windows. Lena stiffened. Someone's here. I moved instinctively, slipping back toward the hallway. A car door slammed. Footsteps approached. The bell jingled. A man stepped inside. Uniform. Police. Lena whispered. He came earlier today. Asked about the owner. The officer glanced around. Evening. You alone. Lena forced a smile. Yes, sir. His eyes drifted toward the hallway. Toward me. Something in his gaze changed. Recognition. Interest. Danger. Double quotes. Mind if I ask you a few questions? He said. Lena nodded, but her eyes flicked to the back just once. A warning, because suddenly, I understood something terrifying. This wasn't just my sister. This wasn't just a corrupt corporation. The rot went deeper, and the ghost they buried was about to haunt a lot more people. The bell above the diner door finished ringing, long before the sound stopped echoing in my head. A police uniform changes the air in a room. People don't notice it consciously, but their bodies do. Shoulders tighten, voices lower. Truth rearranges itself. I stayed hidden, my body pressed against the cold wall of the hallway. Eyes fixed on the narrow crack in the door. The officer stood near the counter, one hand resting casually on his belt, the other holding a small notepad. Lena wiped her hands on her apron again, even though they were already dry. You said you were alone, the officer asked. Yes, she replied quickly, too quickly. His eyes moved slowly across the diner, booth by booth, chair by chair. He paused when his gaze landed on the booth my sister had used. Busy night? He asked. Not really, HM. He scribbled something down. You know, your owner hasn't been answering calls. Lena swallowed. Mr. Halvorsen. That's right. He went away, she said. At least that's what we were told. The officer nodded, like he'd heard that exact line before, like he'd helped write it. And you believe that? He asked. Lena hesitated just a fraction of a second. I believe he wouldn't leave without saying goodbye, she said. The officer's jaw tightened. People surprise you. I felt it then. The wrongness, the way he wasn't asking questions to find answers. He was asking them to confirm a story. Mind if I look around? He asked. Lena forced a polite smile. We're closing soon. I won't take long. He stepped past the counter, toward the hallway. Toward me. My pulse hammered. I calculated distances, exits, angles. If he opened the door, I'd have seconds at most. He stopped inches from the hallway entrance, looked straight at the door, then he smiled. A small, humorless smile. Storage? He asked. Yes, Lena said, voice tight. Mind if I check? My nails dug into my palm. Say no, I begged silently. But Lena was trapped. Say no to a cop and you invite suspicion. Say yes and you invite death. Of course, she said. He reached for the door, and then mercifully, his radio crackled. Unit 12, respond. Possible disturbance on 9th. The officer paused, hand still hovering near the handle. His eyes flicked to Lena, then back to the hallway. He lowered his hand slowly. Lucky you, he said. Duty calls? He turned away, but not before adding, I'll be back. The door swung closed behind him. The bell jingled. The sound echoed like a countdown. I waited a full minute before stepping out. Lena exhaled sharply when she saw me. He knew, she whispered. I swear he knew. I know, I said. My legs felt heavy now, adrenaline draining. Leaving behind the cold reality. He wasn't here to help, I continued. He was here to check if the lie was still holding. She nodded. He's been coming around since the owner vanished. Always polite, always asking the same questions. Who reported the owner missing? I asked. She frowned. The development company. They said they were worried. I closed my eyes. Of course they did. I moved back into the office and pulled out the folder again. The forged documents felt heavier now, like physical proof that the ground beneath us wasn't just cracked, it was hollow. That cop, I said, he's either being paid, or he's scared. Lena sank into the chair. Either way, we can't trust him. No, I agreed, which means we can't go to the police, not yet. She looked at me sharply. Then who? I didn't answer immediately, because there was only one way to expose a system this rotten. From the inside. We document everything, I said, every visit, every threat, every signature, and we make sure it all exists somewhere they can't erase. Where? She asked. I pulled out my phone again. I have someone, an old friend, investigative journalist. We lost touch after I disappeared. But what? But she never believed I ran away. Lena straightened. Can you reach her? I'll try. I typed the message slowly, hands steady, despite the weight of what I was about to wake up. If you're still listening, the ghost is real. I need you. I hit send. Then we waited. Minutes passed like hours. Outside, a car idled across the street. Too long. Engine running. Lights off. Lena noticed too. Is that? Yes, I said. They're watching. My phone buzzed. One message I always knew. Where are you? Relief hit me so hard I had to sit down. Help is coming, I said. But before Lena could respond, her face drained of color. She stared at the monitor. I turned. The security footage was playing live. The diner's back door. Opening. Two men stepped inside. Not uniforms, not hiding. Purposeful. One of them held a crowbar. There, not waiting anymore, Lena whispered. No, I said calmly. They think the place is empty. I moved quickly, grabbing the folder, snapping photos, sending everything I could to my phone, uploading them to every cloud account I'd ever created under names that didn't exist. What do we do? Lena asked, panic creeping in. We survive, I said, and we let them make the mistake they've been trained to make, which was believing no one was watching. The men reached the office door. Could hear their breathing now, the scrape of metal. I took Lena's hand. Remember, I said quietly, I'm already dead. The door handle turned. And everything they thought they controlled was about to collapse. The sound of the crowbar hitting the door wasn't loud at first. It was deliberate. Controlled. Metal against cheap wood. Testing the weakness before committing. The kind of sound made by men who had done this before, who knew exactly how much force was needed and how much noise was acceptable. Lena's fingers tightened around mine. Back room, I whispered. Now. We moved silently, slipping into the narrow supply area behind the office. Just as the second strike landed, the door shuddered. Dust fell from the frame. I reached behind a shelf and pulled loose a panel. Mr. Halvorsen had installed years ago something Lena hadn't even known existed until tonight. Crawl space, I murmured. He showed me once. Her eyes widened. You're kidding. I'm not. Another hit. Harder. The lock snapped. The door burst open. Boots hit the floor. Clear, a voice said. Low, unemotional. I pushed the panel aside, guiding Lena into the narrow space behind the wall. It wasn't meant for comfort, just wires, pipes, and darkness. I slid in after her, pulling the panel back into place just as footsteps approached the office. Through the crack, I could see everything. The two men moved efficiently. One headed straight for the desk. The other scanned the room, crowbar resting casually on his shoulder. They said, it'd be empty. One muttered, dead places always feel watched. The other replied, just work. They began tearing through drawers. My chest burned as I watched them open the exact drawer where the folder had been minutes earlier. Empty. Where is it? One snapped, the other cursed. They moved it. Panic crept into their voices, now subtle. But there. Check the cameras, the first said. He turned to the monitor. My heart slammed. Lena's breath hitched beside me. The man leaned in, squinting at the screen. He rewound footage, fast-forwarded, paused, then he froze. What? The other asked. Someone was here, he said slowly. 2 people. The room went silent. They weren't supposed to be here. The second man's grip tightened on the crowbar. Call it in. The first man pulled out his phone, then stopped. No signal. I smiled grimly, but Mr. Halvorsen had been paranoid. He'd installed signal dampeners years ago after a robbery attempt. No one ever bothered to remove them. The men exchanged looks. That waitress, one said. She knew. Find her. They moved toward the back, toward us. My mind raced. I counted breaths, distance, timing. Then, something beautiful happened. A red light blinked on the camera mounted high in the corner, one they hadn't noticed. Lena's hand brushed my arm. The hidden camera. The one Mr. Halvorsen installed after the first threats. The one that streamed directly to an off-site server. The men didn't see it, but I did. They stepped into the hallway. One of them laughed nervously. Relax. If someone was here, they'd have run. The other didn't laugh. No, he said. Someone stayed. He turned suddenly. Straight toward the panel. My muscles coiled. Before he could reach it, not police. Fire engines. Loud. Close. The men froze. What the hell? The diner lights flickered. Smoke alarms screamed. Sprinklers exploded overhead. Water rained down, drenching everything in seconds. Fire, suppression. One shouted, move, chaos. They ran. Slipped. Cursed. I pushed the panel open and pulled Lena out just as they bolted through the back exit, disappearing into the night. The diner was aflood. Water soaked the floor, the papers, the walls. The camera kept recording, blinking faithfully. Lena collapsed into a chair, shaking. The fire department. I triggered it, I said, holding up my phone. Old system. Emergency override. She stared at me. You planned that. I planned for something, I said. I didn't know what. We didn't have time to rest. Headlights flashed. Outside again. Multiple vehicles this time. Real police, real fire trucks. Real witnesses. I grabbed Lena's hands. Listen to me. When they ask questions, you tell the truth. Nothing more, nothing less. What about you? I stepped back into the shadows. I vanish, I said. But they can't see me yet, I said. Not until it matters. She nodded, tears spilling. You're not dead. No, I said softly. But tonight, I stay a ghost. I slipped out through the crawlspace exit, just as firefighters burst through the front door. From across the street, hidden in darkness, I watched it all. Watched Lena wrapped in a blanket, speaking to responders, watched officers reviewing footage, watched one familiar face arrive late. My sister. She stood behind the tape, furious, phone pressed to her ear. They broke in, she hissed. Yes, I'm sure. The place is swarming with cops. Pause, her face drained of color. No, she said. She's dead. Another pause. Her eyes lifted, swept the crowd. For the first time in years, fear cracked her expression, because somewhere deep inside, she felt it, the sense you get when a grave is empty, and something is walking back toward you. I didn't go far. That was the mistake people like my sister always made, assuming survival meant distance. That ghosts fled, that fear scattered you into hiding places so deep no one could ever hear you again. I stayed close enough to watch the diner glow with emergency lights, close enough to see the fire crews roll hoses back into their trucks, shaking their heads in confusion, close enough to see officers arguing quietly, pointing at screens, replaying footage that refused to fit the narrative they'd been fed, and close enough to see my sister unravel. She paced behind the yellow tape, phone clutched in her hand like it was the only thing holding her upright. Her perfect posture was gone. Her composure cracked every time an officer glanced her way. She wasn't in control anymore. That terrified her. I slipped into the shadows, between 2 parked delivery vans, and checked my phone. 3 missed calls. 1 text. I'm on my way. Don't disappear again. I exhaled slowly. She was coming. The journalist, the one person who never believed the story they sold about me. Across the street, Lena sat on the curb wrapped in a gray blanket, answering questions with a steadiness that surprised even her. I could see the way her shoulders squared each time someone tried to lead her into assumptions. She was learning something important tonight. Fear doesn't vanish, but it can be aimed. A familiar voice cut through the noise. Ms. Halvorsen's employee. Lena looked up. The corrupt officer from earlier stood over her, notepad in hand. His tone was calm, reassuring, practiced. I felt my jaw tighten. Yes, Lena said. That's me. Mind if I ask you a few things off the record? He said. Off the record. The words people like him used when they wanted to reshape the truth before it hardened. Lena hesitated. Then she shook her head. I'd prefer everything be on record. The officer's smile twitched. Of course, he said, just trying to help. He stepped back, but his eyes lingered on her, measuring, calculating. I memorized his face. People like him always forgot something. They believed fear only moved one direction. Behind them, my phone buzzed again. A car pulled up quietly behind me. The engine cut. A woman stepped out. She looked older than the last time I'd seen her. Harder, smarter, the kind of tired that comes from chasing truths people don't want found. She scanned the scene. Then her eyes landed on me. They widened. You look like hell, she said softly. I smiled. You always did have a way with compliments. She crossed the distance in 3 quick steps and hugged me tightly, like she was afraid I might dissolve. I knew, she whispered. I told them I knew. I'm sorry I vanished, I said. She pulled back, studying my face. You didn't vanish. You were erased. I nodded. And now, she asked. Now, I said. We finished the job they started. I handed her my phone. She scrolled. The forged documents, the map, the footage of the break-in, the men's faces, clear as day. Her breath caught. This is huge, she murmured. This isn't just corruption. This is organized. Yes, I said, and my sister is at the center of it. She looked up sharply. Your sister testified against you and signed me into the grave, I replied. She glanced toward the tape, toward my sister. Does she know? She asked. Not yet, I said, but she feels it. As if summoned by the thought, my sister's phone rang again. She answered sharply. What? Her face shifted. Confusion. Then anger. Then something close to panic. No, she snapped. That's impossible. She stopped. Slowly, her gaze lifted. Swept the street. Passed over the vans. Over the shadows. Over me. And then for the briefest second, locked. Her breath hitched. I didn't move. Didn't wave. Didn't smile. I just existed. Her phone slipped from her fingers and hit the pavement. She turned and walked away quickly, disappearing into the crowd. That journalist let out a low whistle. She saw you. Yes. That was intentional. Yes. She looked at me. You're baiting her. I'm reminding her, I said, of every lie she told herself to sleep at night. The next morning, the footage leaked, not officially, not through the police, through channels that didn't care who they embarrassed. By noon, the diner was on every local news station. Break-in caught on camera. Questions raised about missing owner. Waitress's statement contradicts police report. By evening, my name surfaced. Not attached to theft, not to disappearance, but to doubt. New evidence challenges long-held assumptions in 7-year-old case. I watched my sister's world start to wobble. She called me that night. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice came through tight, controlled, shaking at the edges. I don't know what game you're playing, she said, but stop it. You're hurting people. I laughed quietly. Hurting people. She called again. This time her voice cracked. I saw you, she whispered. Tell me I'm wrong. I didn't respond. Letting her doubt was far crueler than confirming the truth. The journalist sat across from me in the motel room, typing furiously. Police Internal Affairs just opened a preliminary inquiry, she said, unofficially, about the officer. I asked. And the development company. She nodded. And the insurance payouts tied to your case. I leaned back. Good. Your sister's name keeps popping up, she added. Shell accounts, property transfers, testimony timelines that don't match. I closed my eyes. For the first time in years, the weight shifted. Not gone, but lighter. My phone buzzed again. A message this time, from Lena. They're saying the owner's body was found downstream. They're reopening everything. I exhaled slowly. They killed him, but they hadn't erased him. Not completely. The journalist looked up. This ends one of 2 ways. I know, I said. Either they buried the truth again, she continued, or they tried to silence you. I met her gaze. They already tried, I said. That's how I know what they'll do next. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Somewhere, my sister was pacing, planning, panicking, and preparing to make the same mistake all powerful people make. when they feel control slipping. She was going to confront the past, in person. And when she did, the dead would finally speak. My sister didn't sleep that night. I knew because people like her never do when the illusion cracks. They pace. They rehearse conversations that haven't happened yet. They convince themselves they're still in control if they just move fast enough. By morning, she had a plan. By noon, she executed it. I found out through Lena. She called me just after sunrise, her voice tight but steady. She came back. She said. My stomach tightened. Where? The diner. Early, before the reporters. What did she want? She said she wanted to help. Lena replied bitterly. Said she was worried about me, about my safety. I almost smiled. My sister never worried about anyone unless they were useful. What else? I asked. She asked questions. Lena continued. About the cameras, about who I talked to, about whether anyone strange had been around lately. And I prompted. And then she said something that scared me. I waited. She said, Lena whispered, if your friend is alive, tell her she doesn't have to hide anymore. My chest went cold. She said that. I asked. Yes. I closed my eyes. She wants me to come to her, I said. That's what I thought, Lena replied. It felt like bait. It is, I said. And she wouldn't set it unless she thought she still had leverage. Do you think she does? No, I said honestly, but she thinks she does, which made her dangerous. An hour later, the journalist confirmed it. She's been calling around, she said, quietly, trying to find out where you might surface. And, I asked. And she's leaked something, she replied grimly. An anonymous tip, claiming you staged the break-in at the diner, that you're manipulating the waitress. I let out a slow breath. There it was. The counterattack. She's trying to flip the narrative. I said, yes. The journalist agreed. Classic move. Discredit the witness. Make you look unstable, vengeful. Dead women don't get sympathy, I murmured. No, she said, but living ones sometimes do. I stood and walked to the window. Outside, the motel parking lot shimmered in the heat. Normal life carried on, ignorant of the quiet war unfolding beneath it. She wants me visible, I said. The journalist nodded, which means she wants you somewhere controlled. She'd choose a place tied to the past, I said, somewhere emotional, somewhere she thinks she has power. I didn't have to wait long. That afternoon, an email arrived. No sender name, just coordinates, and a message. Come alone. Let's end this like family. I laughed softly. Family. She picked the old lake house, I said aloud. The journalist stiffened. That's where you last saw her, isn't it? Yes, I said. That's where she testified she saw me. Confessin' where you disappeared. She added, exactly. The lake house was where the lie was born. So that's where she wanted to kill the truth. Setting a trap, the journalist said flatly. Yes, I agreed, but she's forgetting something. What? I've already survived her worst. I didn't tell Lena where I was going. Didn't tell the journalist either. Not because I didn't trust them, but because my sister had eyes everywhere, and fear makes people careless. On the drive out, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. You shouldn't be doing this, a man's voice said. I recognized it instantly. The cop. I didn't ask for your advice, I replied. Silence. Then, you don't understand how deep this goes. I smiled grimly. I understand perfectly. That's why you called. Another pause. They'll kill you, he said. They already tried. I said. Did you? His breath caught. That was my answer. I saw the footage, he said quietly. All of it. And, I asked. And I don't want to be on the wrong side when this comes down, he said. Then you're already there, I replied. I hung up. That lake house came into view. Just before sunset. Still standing. Still rotting. Still pretending. Nothing had ever happened there. I parked down the road and approached on foot, staying low, listening. Lights were on. Inside. One car parked out front. No guards. No obvious backup. She wanted intimacy. She wanted me vulnerable. I stepped inside. The smell hit me first. Dust, mold, old wood, and memory. She stood near the fireplace, perfectly dressed, like she'd rehearsed this moment in the mirror 1,000 times. You look good, she said. For a ghost. You look nervous, I replied. For someone in control. She smiled thinly. I knew you'd come. Of course you did, I said. You've always underestimated my desire to finish things. Her smile faltered. You're ruining everything, she said. Do you know that? No, I said calmly. I'm revealing it. She laughed sharply. You think people will believe you? After everything? After you disappeared? You mean after you erased me, I corrected. Her eyes flashed. You left. No, I said. You pushed. Silence stretched between us. Then she said it. The confession she never meant to say out loud. I did what I had to do. She whispered. You were in the way. I felt it settle in my chest, the final proof. You framed me, I said. She looked away. You would have ruined everything. For who? I asked. For us? She snapped. For me? I stepped closer. Smile, I said softly. What? Smile, I repeated. You're on camera. Her face drained of color. The door behind her opened. The journalist stepped in. Then, Lena. Then the cop. My sister stumbled back. Shaken. You set me up, she whispered. No, I said. You walked into your own truth. Outside, sirens began to wail. Real ones. Not fire. Not warnings. Arrest. She sank to her knees. This isn't over, she sobbed. I looked down at her. It is for you, I said, because the dead don't lie. The sound of sirens grew louder, closer, sharper, until they swallowed the quiet around the lake house completely. Red and blue lights sliced through the windows, painting my sister's face in fractured colors. She still hadn't moved. Her knees were pressed into the old wooden floor, hands trembling like her body hadn't caught up to the reality yet. This isn't fair, she whispered. Fair. The word echoed hollowly in the room. The door burst open, and officers flooded in, weapons drawn, voices loud and overlapping. Someone grabbed my sister's arms and pulled her upright as she screamed my name, not in rage, not in hatred, but in desperation. Tell them, she cried. Tell them you set me up. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. The journalist stepped forward, holding up her phone, the recording still rolling. Lena stood beside her, jaw set, eyes clear. The cop lingered near the doorway, pale, silent, already understanding that cooperation was the only thing keeping him out of cuffs. One of the officers addressed me. Ma'am, are you? She's the missing woman, the journalist said calmly. The one declared dead. Silence fell. Every eye turned to me. The officer stared, disbelief flickering across his face. You're alive? Yes, I said. I always was. They separated us, asked questions, took statements, photographed everything. The house, the documents, the devices. My sister was led outside, screaming now, begging now, threatening now, cycling through emotions like weapons. She'd used her whole life, but none of them worked anymore, because the truth had weight now, and sound at the station. The night blurred into harsh lights and colder rooms. I told my story from the beginning. The forged signatures, the staged disappearance, the accident that wasn't an accident. I watched as officers exchanged looks, compared notes, realized how many doors had quietly closed on me over the years. The journalist sat nearby, typing, sending updates, building the story brick by brick so it couldn't be torn down again. Lena sat across from me, hands folded. Calm in a way that felt earned. You okay? She asked softly. I nodded. For the first time in a long time. Across the room, my sister sat handcuffed, mascara streaked, hair disheveled, eyes darting constantly. She wasn't powerful here. She was small. A detective approached me, older, careful. We're reopening everything, he said. Your case, the diner owner's case, several others connected to that development company. How many? I asked. He hesitated. More than we're comfortable with. I believed him. Your sister is cooperating, he added. At least, partially. I almost laughed. She always does, I said, when it serves her. Morning came quietly. By sunrise, the story broke nationwide. Woman declared dead, found alive. Family betrayal exposed. Corruption rocks. Local GOVR and man. My face was everywhere. Older photos, courtroom sketches, blurred security footage. People argued online about whether I was brave or reckless, victim or mastermind. I didn't read the comments. I watched my sister instead. She sat in an interrogation room, speaking rapidly now, pointing fingers, rewriting history with the desperation of someone drowning. I watched her realize something terrible. She wasn't the smartest person in the room anymore. Days passed. Arrests followed. The development company's offices were raided, accounts frozen, properties seized. The corrupt cop turned state's witness, his testimony pulling down others who thought their badges protected them. Mr. Hell. Death was ruled a homicide. His name was cleared, so was mine. The judge signed the order, personally. Declaration of death, rescinded. I stared at the paper longer than I expected. Alive, legally, publicly, buff. Something inside me hesitated. Because being alive came with expectations. Appearances. Questions. Ownership. The journalist noticed my silence. You don't look relieved, she said. I am, I replied, just unsure. About what? About whether I want my old life back, I said, or whether I want something new. Lena smiled faintly. You already chose. I frowned. I did. You stood up, she said. You didn't disappear again. That night, I stood outside the diner. The place was closed. Police tape still up. Investigation ongoing. But someone had taped flowers to the door, candles, notes, thanking Mr. Halvorsen, thanking me. Strangers stopped to look at me now. Some recognized me. Some didn't. Both felt strange. My phone buzzed. A message from my sister. Please, just talk to me. I stared at it for a long time, then deleted it, because closure isn't something you owe the people who broke you, it's something you give yourself. I walked away from the diner, not running, not hiding, just moving forward, because the dead woman they buried had learned how to live again. And in the final moments before the sun dipped below the horizon, I realized something quietly powerful. The truth doesn't just set you free. Sometimes it gives you a choice. The trial didn't begin with drama, no shouting, no last-minute confessions, no gasps from the courtroom. It began with paperwork, thick folders slid across polished desks, names typed neatly at the top, charges stacked so high they blurred together: fraud, conspiracy, obstruction, falsification of records, accessory to homicide. When I walked into the courthouse on the first day, every sound felt amplified: shoes on marble, papers rustling, whispers cutting off. The second I passed, I was no longer invisible. That was the hardest part. The journalist sat beside me, quiet now. Her job was mostly done. The truth was in the open, and it didn't need chasing anymore. Lena sat a few rows back. She wore a simple blouse, hands folded in her lap. She hadn't wanted attention. She never had. But courage has a way of making people visible whether they want it or not. Then my sister was brought in. No makeup, no heels, no practiced smile. She looked smaller than I remembered, not because she'd changed, but because the room no longer bent around her. She didn't look at me at first. When she finally did, her expression wasn't hatred, it was calculation that hurt more than anger ever could. The prosecutor laid out the story piece by piece, slowly, methodically, every lie given space to collapse under its own weight: the forged signatures, the shell companies, the staged disappearance, the insurance money, the development deals, the diner, Mr. Halvorsen, and finally, me. She testified under oath. The prosecutor said, gesturing toward my sister, that her sibling confessed to financial crimes before vanishing. My sister's lawyer stood, objected, sat. The recording played. Her voice. Clear. Confident, convincing. I closed my eyes. Hearing it again was worse than I expected. When it ended, the courtroom was silent. The prosecutor turned. And today, she said calmly, that woman sits alive before us. Every head turned. I didn't flinch. My sister did. When it was her turn to testify, she walked to the stand like she was stepping onto a stage she once ruled. She started strong. She always did. Tears, trembling voice, claims of manipulation, fear, confusion. She said she'd been pressured, threatened, lied to. She said she believed I was dead. She said she never intended harm. Then the prosecutor asked one simple question. Why did you continue transferring property after your sibling was declared deceased? My sister hesitated, just a fraction too long. To protect the family, she said. And who did that protection benefit? The prosecutor pressed. Us, she said quickly. All of us. The prosecutor nodded. And yet, she said, every account leads back to you. She displayed the chart. Lines connecting names, companies, properties. All converging on one point. My sister. The courtroom murmured. Her lawyer whispered, urgently. My sister's composure cracked. That's when she did it. She turned, pointed at me. She planned this, she said suddenly. She disappeared on purpose. This is revenge. The room froze. I felt every eye slam into me like a wave. The judge raised an eyebrow. Ms. Control yourself. But my sister wasn't done. She always wanted more. She cried. She was jealous. She hated that I succeeded. She's lying now because she wants to destroy me. I stood. The judge looked startled. Ma'am, let her speak. the prosecutor said quietly. I stepped forward. I hadn't planned to testify, but sometimes silence stops serving you. I didn't disappear, I said. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. I survived. My sister laughed sharply. You expect them to believe that? Yes, I said, because truth doesn't need rehearsal. I looked at the jury. I lost everything. I continued. My name, my home, my future. Not because I committed a crime, but because someone I loved needed me gone. I turned to my sister. You didn't just lie, I said. You replaced me. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. The prosecutor nodded to the judge. Who allowed it? That was my sister's final mistake. She thought emotion was control, but the jury wasn't watching her tears anymore. They were watching her fear. When the verdict came days later, it was swift. Guilty. On most counts. The courtroom buzzed. My sister collapsed into her chair, sobbing, shaking her head over and over like the word itself might change. As she was led away, she looked at me one last time, not angry, not pleading. Empty. And in that moment, something inside me finally loosened. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel revenge. I felt release. Outside, reporters swarmed. Questions flew. Do you forgive her? Will you sue? Are you afraid? I answered, none of them. I walked past the cameras, past the courthouse, into sunlight. Lena caught up with me. You, okay? I nodded. I think so. Do you know what you'll do now? She asked. I thought about it. The old house, the old name, the old life, waiting like a coat that might not fit anymore. I know what I won't do, I said. I won't disappear again. She smiled. So what will you do? I looked ahead, at the road. At whatever came next, I'll live, I said. On my terms. And for the first time since the waitress whispered hide, I felt ready. The world didn't stop when the verdict was read. That surprised me more than anything. Cars still moved through intersections. Coffee still burned in cheap cups. People still complained about traffic and weather and small inconveniences that once felt unbearable to me. Life continued indifferent, relentless, alive. And so was I. In the weeks that followed, everything changed slowly, instead of all at once. No dramatic explosions, no cinematic endings, just consequences settling into place like dust after a collapse. My sister was sentenced quietly. No final speech, no apology. She didn't look at me when they led her away. I didn't chase closure from her eyes. I'd learned something important during the trial. Closure doesn't come from the people who broke you. It comes from realizing they no longer control the shape of your life. The development company dissolved under investigation. Executives pleaded out. Properties were seized. The diner became evidence for a while. Locked, taped, paused in time, until the case officially closed. When it did, the city offered Lena first refusal to reopen it. She called me the moment she got the letter. I don't know if I can do it, she said. It feels heavy. It is, I said, but it's also yours now. She was quiet for a moment. Will you come with me? She asked. I smiled. I think I will. The first day we unlocked the diner again, the bell over the door rang like it always had. Bright, ordinary, defiant. Sunlight poured through the windows, illuminating the booths, the counter, the place where my sister once laughed and thought she was untouchable. Lena hung a small photo behind the register. Mr. Halvorsen. Smiling. Watching. We didn't change much else. Some things deserve to stay. The journalist published her final piece a month later. Not sensational, not cruel, just honest. It didn't make heroes out of anyone. It told the truth. After that, she let the story go. So did I. People still recognized me sometimes in grocery stores, on sidewalks, in quiet moments when I wasn't prepared to be seen. They asked questions. Some apologized. Some wanted inspiration. Some just wanted to know how it felt to come back from the dead. I told them the truth. It's not about coming back, I said. It's about choosing what stays buried. Legally, I reclaimed my name, but I didn't reclaim my old life. I sold the house I'd once called home. The one filled with memories that no longer felt like mine. I closed accounts tied to a version of myself built on survival and fear. I kept only what mattered. A small apartment near the water, quiet mornings, evenings at the diner, helping Lena when she needed an extra pair of hands. We didn't talk much about the past anymore. We didn't need to. One night, after closing, we sat in the last booth with coffee growing cold between us. Do you ever regret it? Lena asked. Regret what? Coming back, she said. Letting them see you. I thought about it. About the storage room. The whisper. The 5 minutes that changed everything. No, I said finally. I regret hiding for so long. She nodded. Outside, the neon sign buzzed softly. The world felt smaller now, safer. Months later, I received one last letter. From prison. I didn't open it right away. I held it in my hands for a long time, feeling the weight of it, the years, the lies, the blood it took to get here. When I finally read it, it was short, no apology. No accountability. Just fear. I folded it back, up and burned it in the sink. Ash washed away easily. Some stories don't deserve a reply. On the anniversary of the night everything began, I returned to the diner alone. I sat in the booth near the wall, the one with the best view of exits and reflections. Old habit. I ordered coffee. Black. The waitress, not Lena this time, but someone new, smiled and set the cup down. Rough night? She asked. No, I said softly, an important one. I sipped the coffee and looked around. At the people talking, laughing, living, and I realized something quietly profound. That night, when the waitress whispered, "Hide quick and just watch," she didn't just save my life. She gave me time. Time to see who people really were. Time to choose who I wanted to be. 5 minutes changed everything, but the life that followed, that was my decision. I stood, left a generous tip, and stepped outside. The air was cool, the sky wide, and for the first time, I wasn't walking away from anything. I was walking forward. Alive. Seen. Free.